Good afternoon and welcome back to Gold Penguins Meet the Founder podcast. I'm Wes, and alongside me today is Matthew, one of the co-founders of Superflows AI. Matthew, how are you, mate? How are things going?
Doing very well, Wes. Thanks so much for having me on.
You're very welcome. And where are you calling in from today, Matthew?
I'm calling in from London, so I live just south of central London. Our offices are just on the river as well. And yeah, I've been here around 10 years now, and London's great. I've lived in the UK all my life, and yeah.
Very cool. I'm very glad to see that it's the first episode we've got with two Brits alongside. So what took you to London originally, can I ask?
Yeah, I came to London for university. So I went to UCL. I studied neuroscience there, which took me up from originally in Somerset in southwest England, and studied neuroscience there, and then carried on. Basically, did my PhD there as well.
Oh, cool, sweet.
So yeah, I've been camped out in London for a while now.
And with the background in neuroscience, can I ask what made you sort of the jump towards entrepreneurship and AI tools? What's the story there?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I did my PhD in neuroscience, I also did some work to do with AI and machine learning. I went to DeepMind for a bit, doing research at kind of the intersection of how humans behave and how that might inform how we can build AI. And the thing that really brought me over was in academia, you do have a lot of independence. You know, each day you're kind of doing things that you want to do. But it felt like I was very abstracted away from the actual value delivered. And I wanted to get much closer to that. And I could see that, you know, during my time at DeepMind, that by applying scientific advances rather than simply trying to make, you know, new knowledge, you can get a bit closer. DeepMind is still, you know, quite far away because it's really, you know, machine learning research. But I could feel that energy around the company, and I really wanted that. And having gone through the PhD where you spend a lot of your time doing fundamental research that you have no idea how and when it'll impact anyone else, I kind of craved having that more direct impact in the world. But I still wanted to keep that independence and, you know, bringing those two things together, along with just the fact that I love science and technology. I landed on starting a company is the right thing to do. It kind of felt right.
It's quite interesting because quite often, if you're going down the road of PhDs and sort of staying in academia, people quite often stay in universities and sort of academic circles for the rest of their lives. You know, they don't tend to make the jump towards business. On the flip side of that, a lot of people in business and entrepreneurs that I've spoken to, especially if they're slightly older now, they didn't go to university. They think it's a waste of time. They think, you know, should start selling or whatever, get the product, get the user base and just get going really. So it's interesting to see how you sort of merged the two worlds. Obviously you're in London. Outside of your entrepreneurship, what sort of thing do you do in your free time? What sort of hobbies do you have?
Oh, good question. So I play cricket on the weekends when I have time. Yeah, very English. Doesn't get more English than that.
No set roots.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, work does take up a lot of time, as I'm sure you hear from a lot of founders.
I can imagine, no.
Yeah. So, I'm a big music fan. Growing up in Somerset, I went to Glastonbury Festival a lot as a kid. And,
nice. Okay.
Still try and go when I can. I read a lot. I read incessantly. So the room I'm in just has books everywhere, and that's, you know, the best way I have of getting downtime, really.
Before I ask about the tool, can I ask about the neuroscience sort of thing? So it's a very sort of niche area. You don't meet many neuroscientists or anyone that studied it to the level of PhD, especially. What sort of fueled that passion originally? Was it sort of, you know, a topic you brushed on in, I don't know, GCSE science and just sort of fell in love with, or, you know, where did that come from?
Yeah, so I think I read a book about how there is a relationship between the different parts of your brain and the kind of information processing they have. Okay. So some parts of the brain do vision, some of memory, and there are these really fascinating case studies of when, you know, somebody would have an injury to a part of their brain and they'd have very specific functional deficits. They would show like slight strange behaviors as a result.
I heard someone in China woke up speaking Scouse. I'm not sure that's like a tabloid.
I can't vouch for that one. I don't know, but you hear lots of these stories. There was somewhere, you know, people would have they wouldn't be able to see movement, so they'd pour a glass of water or something, and it would just suddenly be overflowing to them. But to everyone else, they've just been pouring for too long, right?
All right. Okay.
And the one that really captured my interest was around a brain area called the hippocampus, which is to do with episodic memory, so memories of things that have happened. And you get this absolutely fascinating set of kind of symptoms for people who have damage here, where things like spatial memory are really impaired. And I think it was really that just thought that really captured me. And the other side of that is that in some sense you're investigating how your own mind works, which I always found quite cool. I found that very interesting. And so I think that combination of one kind of hook that I had from reading a book, and then the fact that you're investigating this kind of deeply mysterious process that we kind of don't know that much about, and is to do with everything you experience in life, that just seemed absolutely fascinating to me.
Again, you're right in the sense that, like, our brains control and engineer everything we do in the daily basis. But if you ask the average person on the street if they know much about, again, the hippocampus or different parts, they probably couldn't tell you anything really, nor could I. I'm not saying I could either. So, it's weird that, again, taking a step back and seeing we don't actually know much about it, which is quite strange. I'm intrigued to hear more about Superflows now, if that's okay. So just for the audience, could you give us a quick summary of like what it is and, sort of who it would work for?
Yeah, so Superflows makes it really easy to add a chat assistant to a software product. So I'm sure people will have heard of ChatGPT, and the way that works is you give it a prompt and it will give you the most likely answer for that prompt based on like all the things it's been trained on. Okay. What we do is we connect up a software product to that. So you can imagine a prompt comes in, we then make the reply that it gives take actions within the product that it's connected to. So you could ask, for example, in a like customer relationship management tool, you could say, give me the last 5 customers from this region and rank them by how much revenue they made us. And it would be able to go into the code base of that product, find all that information and give it back to you. Okay. And so this is used by companies who run software products. They tend to be sort of growing or medium sized right now. It's like the customer base that is getting the most value out of us. And the main reason they use us is because they want to improve their product experience for their users, because it really matters to them that they know how the product works and can use it easily, because that improves their revenue metrics. And basically building this themselves takes a lot of time, a lot of engineering time. It's quite hard to get this to be reliable. So we take take that process and make it really simple, so they just have to come onto our platform, upload a file, and then they have a functioning chatbot. Again,
I can imagine quite a sort of a wide scope and quite a big user base you're targeting there as well, with the nature of the product. Can I ask where the original idea came from? And was it sort of riding the wave towards the end of last year when GTP went kind of mainstream, or was it slightly before that, or what sort of time zone are we talking here?
Yeah, so we originally were working on an email product, and the reason for this was because we'd spent so much time in our emails, and we felt like that problem could be solved now that basically ChatGPT can write emails. There were a few problems with that. It's actually much harder than you would think to get it to write emails that sound like you and have all the knowledge you have, and therefore write the email in the way you would. So we ran into more roadblocks with that than we thought we would. And then we noticed that in order to get this to work, you would have to be able to have this functionality of being able to say, this email just came in, I now need to fetch all this information from all these other places in order to write this email. And that is basically just saying you have to integrate this into other products in order to make it work really well. And when we started doing that, we had companies reach out to us and say, oh, if you're able to do that, can you just do that like within our product? And so it came around really organically. We noticed that we were getting asked like how we were doing this thing because people were trying to do it. And so we thought, okay, people clearly want this and they're clearly finding it not easy, and we know how to do it. So let's do that. and yeah, that's kind of the backstory to how we landed on this. and yeah, from there, the progress has been really, really strong. It's been, we're working on it a few months now. We've got, decent revenue coming in, and, we haven't really launched publicly with this product.
Okay.
We've been working just behind the scenes with, either
Always a good sign.
introductions or either introductions or, some pre-existing relationship. We're working with those companies, and we're launching, I think, this week. Fingers crossed. That everything falls into place.
Exciting stuff then.
Yeah.
In terms of the sort of pre-launch step, can I ask roughly how many monthly users are using it at the minute?
Yeah, so we have, it's basically between 10 and 20 right now, but the number of end users is larger than that. So the kind of customers we work with are running some software products. So yeah, the number of then end users is much larger than that, but the sort of customers we work with every day, there's between 10 and 20.
And obviously from the original sort of conception of the idea, could you maybe share with us how Superflows has maybe changed and grown since you first thought of it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the biggest things that have changed have been that we realized the user interface components are really important. And originally we were planning just to be an API so that, software products could call our API and get the answer back based on their product.
Yeah.
The difficult thing about that is that a bunch of the time in making this is making the user interface work well. So there's things like, when ChatGPT streams out the response, that is not trivial to get right. And yeah, in order to make it really easy to integrate into other products, we have to build out of the box user interface components that they can just add in like one line of code.
Okay.
And yeah, so that was a bit of a change in the design from what we originally thought. I'd say that's the biggest one.
Okay. And in terms of your pricing, you've got the 3 tiers of hobby, growth, and scale. So obviously they're quite sort of alternative names for the 3 tiers. Could you walk us through the differences between these 3? And, when you do come to launching and you've got the bigger user base, which tier would suit what sort of user?
Yeah, so hobby is basically for playing around. Anyone can go onto our dashboard and play around with a chatbot, and they can upload a file. It's basically an open API specification, just a JSON file that describes like how the API works. You can upload that, play around with it for free. Then basically if you want to add that to your product, it's like $100 a month. In order to go from 0 queries made up to 500 queries made a month. And then we essentially just scale the number of queries up to 50,000, I think, off the top of my head. I hope I got that right. Which is $1,500 a month. And then if larger than that, you can just reach out to us and we'll do it on a company by company basis.
I'd also like to ask on the back of that, lots of the founders we speak to, sort of one of their main pieces of advice is to make sure that key core user base is going to be there by the time it comes to going public and launching. So, where are you at in terms of interest from the general sort of user base at the minute? Have you got a solid foundation that you're ready to step into?
Yeah, we do. So we've been really happy with the response we've had of going out and basically cold calling people, which is a low hit rate sort of strategy, but we felt it was the right one here to get going. And yeah, so you have a good number of people have tested it out, and while they haven't sort of fully integrated in their product yet, they're working on doing that.
Okay.
So we're very happy with that. I think getting a good hit rate on cold outreach is usually a good sign that you're on something.
Absolutely.
So yeah, we're pretty happy with how that's turned out. And then there's been other companies we've kind of been introduced to by our investors or other people we know, and those conversations have gone really well as well. And so it's an exciting time. Yeah.
And obviously you mentioned investors then. Have you secured sort of pre-seed or seed funding at all for the tool?
Yeah, so we raised 500K, just a relatively small pre-seed round. We want to keep the team small as long as we can, and we didn't feel like we needed like loads and loads of money to prove this out. Yeah. I think once we really prove out the customer base and get more paying customers, we'll go and do a fundraise, I think. But yeah, right now we're just keeping the team super small, keeping everything very lean and just focusing in on trying to build a really good product that people really need and helps solve that problem.
Important place to be, I think, certainly. And in terms of numbers for the team, how strong is the team at the moment in your London office?
I'd say those are two different things. So the numbers on the team is three people on our team. In terms of strength, I think we prioritize people being really productive over anything else. And we have previously tried to add more team members, and it doesn't always work out. And it's not as simple as adding another person makes everyone more productive. Sometimes the reverse can happen, where you add someone and it's not the right fit and it's not good for anyone. So what we focused in on is just making sure that the three of us are super productive. And so we've got myself, Henry, my co-founder, who's on the CTO side, so he is in charge of building product. And then we've got James Rowland, who also has a neuroscience PhD. Actually, he was controlling.
Oh, really?
Intelligent team. He spent his PhD controlling high-powered lasers in a neuroscience lab. So yeah, he's a smart guy. And yeah, he's here as a software engineer. He builds the product out with Henry.
Always a good angle if you're looking for more investors to say that 2/3 of the team have neuroscience PhDs. So I was going to say, taking a look at sort of the bigger picture as a co-founder yourself, as maybe your other co-founders too, could you maybe share with us some of the biggest problems you've faced along with this tool so far, or if it's, you've worked on other tools in the past, and how you overcame them, if that's okay?
Yeah, I think with any product, distribution is vastly underrated by first-time founders like me when you start out. You have in your head, if I just build this great product, everyone will hear about it and then it'll be great. And distribution is always way harder than you think. And yeah, so that's definitely been the biggest challenge. We've tried lots of different things for first the email product, and then we think we had a better plan this time for how we'll sort of go to market. But yeah, with the email product, there's a lot of things like we were doing Reddit posts essentially. That was like the thing that went the best for us. The other thing that went really well, for us was getting listed on tool aggregators. So particularly in AI at the moment, there are lots of websites that will aggregate different AI tools, and they'll usually have a newsletter alongside them. And so they'll advertise the new tools that have been listed, and that went really well. That was, the way we got to our first load of users, and I think we got to 3,000 in the end, basically through this strategy. Okay. And that was the big one that made a difference there. We have a slightly different strategy this time around, but that was the thing that made the biggest difference. And it makes such a difference when you've got new people coming in to test your products, and it makes a huge difference. It really can't be overstated. Like, I think too many people worry about the state their product in before trying to put it out. I think they're much better in most cases just trying to get feedback, and the best way to do that is distribute it and get people actually testing it live. Yeah.
It's another interesting point, because a lot of the founders we speak to say something very similar. So, your point about how difficult distribution can really be, and that a lot of people don't realize that. Some of them would say to someone, building a tool, just make a landing page, have an email waiting list, and see who signs up. You can do a bit of promotion, whether it's Reddit, for example. If there's a particular niche, you can find that channel of communication to take it to market. But until you know that there's people waiting to use it, be careful how much you're spending time on it. If you're spending 6 months developing this product that no one's going to use, probably not a great use of your time, basically. So it's important, definitely.
The thing I say about that is, like, in your head, you always will think that the thing you're building is awesome and that everyone will love it. And there are usually loads of assumptions that you've made about that you do actually have to test. And the only way of testing it is really trying it with people and talking to them about the product and their problems.
Again, if you're stuck in that bubble of, you've spent a few months building this thing that, I personally, for example, would find so incredibly useful. But unless you hear that feedback from people that are going to be using it eventually, you don't know that. You're stuck in that weird way of thinking where everything you do is perfect, and this feature is going to be great, this feature is going to be able to do this. But unless you can listen to the people, the end users, and see what they want, it's not necessarily that useful, to be fair.
There's a real skill to that as well. Like, you can just put it in their hands and see what happens. But then you reach this point of, you actually do have to get feedback, and getting the feedback there's this real skill to that, which is something, again, I didn't really understand before I started this, which is, asking questions to users about their problems that aren't leading questions. So when I do interviews for other products, I get this all the time, and they will ask incredibly leading questions. They'll be like, so how much time did this feature save you? And it's like, that is a terrible question to ask, because
marketing, and then that's it.
Yeah, because it just leads you straight to the answer they want to hear, right? Whereas what you really want to do is ask them about the last time they tried to do this task about your tool, and then hear what they say and what the big problems they talk about are. Because those are the things that they remember and were painful for them, and the things that you should be trying to solve, rather than asking them a leading question that will just give you the answer you kind of already want to hear. It's very hard to avoid doing it. And so often when I get interviewed about products that I've used, like that happens, and you just want to shout. I just want to shout at them over the call, like, you're doing this wrong. You really don't want to be leading me to the answers.
Very important point. In terms of the next couple of years or so, where do you see the future of Superflows going? There are quite a few sort of, key goals you have in mind as a team that you're trying to hit, or, what could you tell us about that?
Yeah, I mean, we have a public roadmap, so anyone can go and look at this. It's on our documents page. And I'm really excited about the things that we're going to be building for this. There's things like being able to fine tune a large language model, one of the open source ones, to your company data, so that it sounds much more like your company, and it knows all the things that your company knows, and can answer user questions based on that. There's a whole suite of new features we have, which people should go check out if they're interested in our project. In terms of the milestones, I think the big ones that we care about the most are just getting a highly retained group of customers on the platform and using it. We're here to solve problems for people and save engineers and product managers time. And if we can do that and improve their product experience of their users, that's what we care about the most. So it will, the main metrics that we'll track and care about will be basically how many customers do we have and how happy are they with our service. And that's what we'll be aiming at.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Something we always tend to ask is this. So let's imagine I'm someone who's got a great idea for my own SaaS tool, or if it's a tech tool or whatever, but I've never run a business before. I'm new to the world of entrepreneurship and all that sort of thing. What would you say to me to get me from steps 0 through 10? What are the main things I should be focusing on? I would always focus on the job to be done of the people you're trying to solve a problem for and build for. And the job to be done just means what job in their life are you going to basically replace with your tool? And jobs can be anything from like entertainment to, I have to move my files over on a computer or something like this, right? But there should be some job in their life that you are replacing with your tool, and just being laser focused on that and just saying, what do I need to build that will solve this for this person? And then the second thing I would do is, before you touch a line of code and build anything, I would try and find 5 to 10 people at least in that group who you think you have a problem that you can solve, and then ask them questions that are not leading, that are asking them about their life and how the problem emerges in their life, and build up as big a picture of that as you can around the problem. And I think if you do those two things before touching any line of code, you'll have a way better understanding of what you're actually doing than, if you just dive in and try and build something straight away. So I think that's a very common thing that people do when they start out, is they just start building it. And we did this when we started. But I think having that idea of exactly what the problem is you're solving, for whom, and therefore, understanding what that looks like for them and the things that they talk about when talking about this problem, will give you a much better idea about the actual product you should build. Okay, very useful. Thanks a lot for that. So we'll be drawing this episode of Meet the Founder to a close there. Big thanks to Matthew for coming on and speaking to us today. It's been great talking to you.
Thanks so much, Wes. Thanks for your time.
You're more than welcome. And to the rest of you listening, take care, and we'll catch you next time. Goodbye.